we find in Perkov Dalet Aleph, the Torah tells us, Avram Zokin Bo Bayomim, Vashem Berachas Avram Bakol. Avram was old, and he was advanced in years, and Hashem blessed him with everything. So there's a famous Rashi. What does it mean? He blessed him with everything. Bakol Ola Bigmatria Ben. The numerical value of Bakol is Ben, his son. Now that he has the son, he has to locate a wife, and it has to be the proper wife. This woman is going to be the future matriarch, meaning Klal Yisrael is going to come from this woman. She's going to be a contributor to Klal Yisrael. But it's interesting. Avram Avinu had tremendous wealth. Avram Avinu had fame. He was world renowned. He had a level of success which no one had. He had defeated the 4 kings. And so you'd say, he has it all. What does it mean he has it all? He has it all. He has it all means Ben. Bakol is Ben. Meaning everything he had no value whatsoever. Everything paled to Yitzchak, because Avram's objective and value in existence was only one thing: to only espouse God's existence, mankind, and glorify his name. Yitzchak was the only son, the only person in his life who was able to be his successor. Wealth has no value. Fame, renown has no value. Nothing has value. In terms of Avram Avinu's life, what has value? And what's the ultimate value? The Ben, the son that he had, which was Yitzchak, which was the future patriarch of the Klal Yisrael. That's why the Torah says that he's the Bakol. He's everything. We find there's Norach Hayim Kodesh at the beginning of Lech Lecha. Hashem gives Avram all these incentives why he should leave his birthplace, his family, his homeland, fame, children, wealth. Then the Torah tells us, Vayelech Avram kasher diber elav Hashem. So originally it says, Vayomer Hashem el Avram lech lecha. Vayomer is informal. Diber is very formal. It's a dictate. So the incentive was, go because you're going to merit 3 things: children, wealth, and fame. But why did he go? Kasher diber elav Hashem. Because God gave him the dictate. It had nothing to do with his personal gain. Not for children, not for wealth, not for anything else. Because God had commanded him to go. That overrides everything. All the wealth that he has, and the fame, and anything else, anything in his life has no value. What has value? Only one thing. Ben. That's what has value to him. Because the Ben is Yitzchak, is the future patriarch. So if he's that special person, he has to have, a patriarch has no value unless you have the appropriate matriarch. He has to have the appropriate wife. We read in the parsha, he summoned Eliezer and he adjured him that he had to take an oath that he has to take a specific type of woman. She has to meet all the criteria that he set. And if not, Eliezer would forfeit his share in the world to come and the physical world. He bound him with such strong prerequisites that Eliezer couldn't not do and carry out the mission that he was chosen to carry out. Okay, as we read, the parsha, the story is written 3 times, which is a separate discussion. So I asked the question. Now, Eliezer says to Avram, when he sets all the criteria, he says, even if I find the woman, ulai lo sova isha lech sachroi. Maybe the woman's not going to want to come back. She's not going to want to come back to Canaan. What should I do? He says, you are resolved from my oath. Do not, my son cannot go there. So the word ulai is written choser. The vav is deleted. So without the vav, it's read, it could be read Eli. Meaning the reason why Eliezer asked that question, very often the person asks a question because he has a certain personal interest, has no ulterior motive. So Rashi cites Chazal that Eliezer had a daughter who was a tzaddikus. Eliezer was Damascus Eliezer, he was Dol Mashke Torah Sharabo. All the Torah that Avram disseminated, Eliezer disseminated the same Torah. He drew from the same wellspring. Eliezer radiated, as it says in Chazal, that when Lavan saw Eliezer, he thought it was Avram Avinu. He had a similar radiance in Kedusha and holiness. So his daughter was a special woman. So he says, I don't understand, what are you sending me off to this far-off land to find a wife? She's right in our backyard, my daughter. So Avram said, you don't understand. You're a descendant of Canaan, of Chom, Canaan, and Canaan is Oror. He's of cursed stock. We come from Shem. Shem is of blessed stock. Ein Oror b'zdabik b'boruch. One who's of cursed stock cannot cleave to one of blessed stock. What does that mean? That since Avram's objective is to father a Klal Yisrael, which is an eternal people, which is unshakable. The foundation has to be unshakable. There can't be any defect in the foundation. So if that's the case, she may be a tzaddikus. She has a share in the world to come on an exceptional level. But as being part of the foundation, to set the secure foundation for Klal Yisrael, that it's unshakable, it has to be fully baruch. The Orur, the cursed gene, cannot be part of the blessed gene. Cannot intermingle the two. That's the reason. Now, because Klal Yisrael has to be that special eternal people, and they have to be the one to be the Adam. We're going to be reinstated. We're going to be in the place of Adam Rishon. Although he failed, we're going to take his place. Atem Kruim Adam, Hem Lo Kruim Adam. We're able to achieve what Adam Rishon was meant to achieve before the sin. It has to be permanent and pure, the purest of the pure. So I asked the question. And I thought about the question this morning. And you know, you merit siyata d'shmai for an answer. It has to do because very often the people you teach, to be able to give them the right answer, because you have the question, you don't have the answer, it's a problem. So the question I asked was, if you take a look, right after the Akedah, Avram, the Torah tells us that it was told him that his family, there were a number of children born to his brother's children. I mean, he had new great nephews and nieces born to him. Nachor's children had children. So Rashi says, why was he informed? Because after the Akedah, Avram all of a sudden had an issue. And now that my son is alive, I have to locate a wife. What am I going to do? Where am I going to find a wife for him? So if he's informed, take a look at Rashi over here. Take a look at the end of Parshas Vayiro in Pasuk Chof. Achad dvar mo'eleh b'shuvim mihar Moriah. It's worthwhile to see it inside. When he was returning from Har Moriah, not Moriah, Avram Maharav Omer, he was contemplating and saying, Elohai bini shochot. If my son would have been slaughtered, I would have no children. I should have married originally. He should have been married earlier. Meaning, if he would have, but now that he's alive, Bisra Kodesh Baruch Hu shenolda Rivka bazugo. So he was informed that Rivka, his soulmate, was born. V'zeu hadvar me'elach hirurei dvorim shoyu al yidei akedah. This is what entered. One second. This is what entered. Hashem informed him through Ruach HaKodesh that he has nothing to worry about. Rivka Bazugo was born. So my question is, so if he was aware who the woman was, now he instructs Eliezer. So he can't go negotiate the hand of Rivka himself. So he sends his agent, Eliezer. What does that said? All this criteria. She has to be this and she has to be that. I'll give you the address. I'll give you the phone number. I'll give you the profile. I'll give you everything. Just go, bring her back. right? He knew. Vashem informed him it's Rivka Bazugo, Rivka Bas Besuel. Well, what's this whole, he had to adjure him and this and that. What do we need all this for? And he asks a question, Ulai. He says, I know exactly who it is, just go get her. But he kept it. And Eliezer had to go. And Eliezer, when he went, you read the story. What's the narrative? He came, he had Kfisas HaDerech. In a day he traveled. What normally takes a number of days to travel. He arrives at this wellspring, and all of a sudden he sees a maiden. But before the maiden came out, he was mispal, he prayed that the maiden should have these characteristics. She'll come out, she'll draw water, she'll offer me the water, offer my men the water, offer the camels the water. And all of a sudden, sure enough, Rivka comes out, and he's not sure if it's Rivka. And he puts the bracelets on her, because he sees that all the characteristics that he prayed for, they are there. What do we need all this for? If Avram would have informed him in advance who she was simple. Go to Besuel, knock on his door. You have a daughter, Rivka. She's 3 years old. I'm offering her the hand of Yitzchak. He has tremendous wealth. Avram is his father. Are you agreeable? That's it. Beginning, end of the story. This is the question that bothered me this morning. So I was thinking, and I think this is the right answer, that we find Yehuda. The Davidic line comes from who? From Tamar and Yehuda. Melech Mashiach comes from Tamar and Yehuda. Malchus Beis David comes from Tamar and Yehuda. Is that the way? Could you imagine, God forbid, two people, special people, they meet and all of a sudden they desire one another and they meet in the hotel room and somehow he can't control himself and he has relations and they have a child. The woman conceives. Is that the way to start a family? And this is the holiest family. This is Malchus. This is the royalty of Klal Yisrael. It comes, he meets a woman, she thinks she's a prostitute, turns out to be his daughter-in-law, and he gives her collateral for the fee, for the service. What's going on over here? Is that why? And this, the purest of pure, came from this. So there's a famous word we mentioned in the past from the Shach that we find by the Akedah, when Avram was going to the Akedah, Satan came as a raging river. Why did he come as a raging river? Because he understood that if Avram succeeds in his mission, when he will prosecute in the future, the schus of the Akedah will silence him. So he left no stone unturned to prevent Avram Avinu to succeed in the Akedah. He did not want Avram. He was concerned if he meets that challenge, that test, he's finished. We have something in our war chest he can't stand up against, which is the schus of the Akedah. Raging river, even at the end, when finally the ram came running to Avram Avinu. The Torah says it was Nechas B'Shvach, it was caught in the thicket. Because Avram wanted to actualize his intent with the ram. And Avram had to go take it out of the thicket and bring it as the korban in the place of Yitzchak. Satan didn't want it to happen. So the Shach says, if let's say Tamar and Yehuda it would have come about in a conventional way, you think Satan would have allowed it? No way. He would have prevented that and it couldn't have happened. You know what I mean? If Hashem wants it to happen, no, because the way Hashem created the world, Satan has tremendous leeway. And therefore he could have, so what does Hashem do? It comes about where it's already sullied. She's a prostitute. The moment it takes on that kind of guise, Satan is totally blinded. And you get under the wire. The story of Boaz and Rus. What's the story? She goes out and she's advised by her mother-in-law. Boaz is out in the field, the threshing. She comes out, she's all prettied up, made up, coifred. And the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, he had to, what's his name? He had to control himself, not to have relations with her in the field. And this is what? This is the grandmother of David HaMelech. Is this the way you do it? Same answer. It had to take on that guise because otherwise Satan wouldn't have allowed it. If Satan would have known who the pre-designated wife for Yitzchak was, the future matriarch of Klal Yisrael, this is what I'm answering. He wouldn't have allowed it. He would have tripped it up. It wouldn't have happened. So what does he do? He gives him, look for these traits, these characteristics, and through the shtadlus of Eliezer and his tefillah, he succeeded. Because if he would have revealed to him in advance who it was, it wouldn't have happened. Sutton wouldn't have allowed it to happen. As a result of that, that's why it was kept a secret, and he only gave him the prerequisites and the characteristics, and Eliezer went and did his own shtadlus, and it was initially an unknown for that reason.